they say if you don't want a hairy baby, then don't look at a hairy person. And they also say that if you are worried if you're barren, you want to test that out by making a fumigation, whatever that is, and puff it right up your vagina. And then if it comes out your mouth, you're fertile.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to 500 Open Tabs. I'm Kaveh Taherian.
And I'm Hillam. Kaveh, how are you?
I am fine.
Yeah, same.
I'm acceptable.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm living, you know?
I'm
alive.
That's great. Yeah, that's wonderful. We're going to have to wait a little bit longer, audience, for Hannah to not be living anymore, unfortunately. Just hold on.
You guys are all waiting. Oh, you can't wait. Oh, everyone's so... I hope it's just Kaveh today. I hope he's the only one alive. That's what you guys sound like.
I assure you, nobody wishes that. Anyway, welcome back to the show.
Hey, I'll put words in my mouth.
Yeah, unfortunately for our audience, both hosts continue to live, and we are back with another... We're back with two more mid-ass tabs.
I was going to say titillating tabs, but then...
Titillating tabs to regale you with. I don't believe we have any updates right now to go into other than the fires continue to be fought. They are getting close to, the Palisades and the Eaton seem to almost be donezo. At the time of this recording, hopefully nothing else happens.
Fingers crossed, because that'll help. I was just going to say, I realize I need to correct myself. I know that creatures can't evolve within 10,000 years. It takes much longer, okay?
I don't even remember when that was said.
It was last week when I said that in 10,000 years, if someone opens up the capsule, maybe it's a different species. It won't be.
It could be like AI robots or something.
Dang, you're right.
You never know.
I also wanted to show something a fan made us. You gonna say anything to that or no? Just nothing.
I was waiting for you to show. I was like, okay.
No, I know. But this was like months ago. Melanie, she's in the Discord too, sent us this, and you've seen it.
Oh yeah, I love it.
Beautiful embroidery of our logo.
Excellent work.
Made me feel all sorts of excitement and
They even wrote in podcast on the bottom.
They put podcast in the bottom.
They threaded it in. They sew it in. What is it called?
Embroider.
It's embroidery, but you do it with like a
needle.
Or is it done like on the machine?
There's been embroidery machines, but this one was done by hand with a needle.
By hand. Incredible.
Melanie, thank you.
Thank you, Melanie.
Yeah.
Beautiful work.
Anything else you want to talk about, or can we get into this?
No, I think we should just get into it.
Get it over with.
Get it over with already. Yeah. No, you're up this week first. Yeah. So why don't you tell us about what you got?
I will.
Okay.
So,
good.
Fine. I'm totally a normal, stable person. So this is from an article that I got reading called "When the Birds and the Bees Were Not Enough" by Mary Fissel.
Okay.
And now the title probably says something, but before we get into the title of that, I have to talk about what a pseudo-Aristotle is, because
literally everybody on Twitter and like forums,
seriously,
and every person that's quote unquote into stoicism or like everybody in the Bay Area that works in tech, but that's going to be my assumption. But continue.
No, a pseudo-Aristotle is a nickname that authors would give themselves when they wrote anonymous pieces of literature. So they'd be like, "Oh, this is sciencey."
It's the Alan Smithy.
Yes, exactly. It's like, this is sciencey. It's by Aristotle, and for like 2,000 years, people did this. There are like thousands of these. Even to the point where you can look up author and just write pseudo-Aristotle, and it has like, that's a category of author. So
that's fun.
This work, okay, I'm sorry, really quick. I got a new computer and now I have more tabs open than I can even comprehend.
Love it.
Like 4 different windows, like 15 tabs.
Too furious.
I'm very confused. Wait, what'd you say?
2 tab, too furious? I don't know.
Tokyo Drift. Okay, so this article is about something called Aristotle's masterpiece. And Aristotle's masterpiece, first of all, is not by Aristotle, and it is not a masterpiece.
Damn it.
Depends on what you mean by masterpiece. Instead, it is a wildly popular sex manual.
Yep. Sounds right. My first instinct was to say it was some sort of fan fiction or like some weird sexy thing. So,
well, not fan fiction unless you're really into Christianity.
There are people out there who exist.
Oh, I know. So Aristotle's masterpiece is this like 400-year-old book that's a sex manual from like 1680. It was published.
This is like some Marquis de Sade kind of shit.
If only. Not even close.
Old-timey perv stuff.
This is like monogamous.
Oh, it's not like a good sex manual. It's like it's cut a hole in the section sheet kind of stuff. Oh my God, the tracking camera is so insane.
I hate this camera. I turned it off. I turned the look. Oh, it's throwing me off. I just throw it in the garbage. So I forgot to say, a lot of other pseudo-Aristotle stuff was just like bonkers. Like there was this thing called, have you heard of the secretum secretorum? Which is
secretum secretorum?
Secretum secretorum.
Ooh, secretum secretorum.
This one's not about sex. This one's about like magic.
It's about secreting? Oh, okay.
It's called in Arabic, it's the secret book of secrets.
Secret book of secrets. Yeah, that's not confusing at all.
Not at all. But it was super popular. It was like alchemy and all this magic stuff. And
I bet you a lot of people bought it and were just like, what the hell is this shit? I thought it was about secretions.
I want secretions. And that is when the bookstore owner would say, if you like secretions, let me point you towards Aristotle's masterpiece.
Aristotle.
And so this book, if you could call it a book, it's more like
a loose affiliation of pages.
Yes. Actually, it's more like somebody lifted literal passages from other texts on like midwifery, like midwife stuff and pregnancy and like medical stuff, and just took out the parts that were like kind of naughty in their mind, and then just put it all into one book. And so it's this weird like cobbled together compilation of like naked women, sex tips.
Cool. Okay.
Genetics, like early genetics, and then like how to deliver a baby, and then also how to like raise a baby. Also like a bunch of household remedies. So it covered everything.
Everything you need. It's one-stop shop.
One-stop shop. You want to look at a naked lady without getting in
everything
trouble?
You need to know. Yeah.
You got it. If you want to like make some medicine for someone, you got it. If you want to learn how sex is done, no problem. As long as you are very Christian about it. Now, in the late medieval and early Renaissance, midwives were only women, right? Men weren't allowed in there. And if they did come in, that usually meant like something bad was going to happen. Like the mom's about to die or the baby's about to die. So like,
or like say goodbye to whoever.
Yeah. So like the sight of a man was like, get out, that's bad news. And up until like, I think the 1980s, men still weren't.
Really?
Yeah. Like, no, 70s.
But fairly recently even.
Fairly recently. Like men are kind of allowed in. And the average person back then, I always thought that it was like no one talked about sex, no one did anything. Well, it's not like realistic at all if you think about it. Duh. People are going to try to learn in how they want to learn. Like if they're on a farm, they're going to see animals and be like, maybe it's the same.
Also, humans have been horny basically since the beginning.
Since the beginning. What have we been doing? That and art. That's it. That's how we started.
Hentai was the natural progression of what we were going to do. That's where humanity was always headed.
I love the cave paintings in France. That's just hentai. Those French hentai cave paintings are...
of Lascaux.
The Lascaux hentai paintings are just beautiful, and my favorite
the
part
octopus
of art
tentacles, incredible.
They didn't even have octopuses in mainland France, but you know what?
But they knew.
Do you imagine? This
is what the people are going to want.
Following me. I'm going to lose my mind. I can't even move. Look.
I love it.
Okay. Calm down, Kaveh. Come on.
Please, everybody, if you've not subscribed to the YouTube, do so now and give yourself an extra bonus of hilarity of Hannah Hillam trying to escape the NSA following her.
So upon finding this book, I started reading it, of course, because I was like, I want to see what this says.
You need to learn, yeah.
And it's bonkers. Like, not only is there like what everything I just said, but there's also a whole section about monstrous births. So there's like, if you don't want to come to learn about sex, you can read the book to learn about like how babies come out looking like hairy beasts. There's these amazing
awesome
illustrations of like conjoined twins and like babies with upside down faces and like dog tails.
Actual, it's like people with deformities, not like you're giving birth to like Yeti or something, not monsters.
It's the way they describe it is wild. So I'll get into exactly what it is, but how much at the time did people even like know about sex? And I started reading about that, and Turns out it was like mostly the upper class, educated, who had knowledge at their fingertips. They were able to go and learn about it.
Sorry, can I ask you? So when you say, do they know about sex?
Sorry.
Obviously, people know about sex and sexual what are you referring to specifically?
Thank you for saying that. How much access to reproductive knowledge and how things work and the female body did people have? Does that make sense? Like,
sorry, I'm going to be a bit annoying just to clarify. So are you saying that, like, obviously people knew that, like, penis and vagina and ejaculation gets you pregnant and then you have a baby.
Yes.
Is it just like they don't know about like the period cycles or like what that means? Do they not understand like how birth I mean, they would have at some, what do you mean they don't? I don't understand how they don't understand, because people are still born and having sex, right? So like that's what I'm trying to understand exactly what you mean by like, what didn't they know at the time?
Okay. So the relationship structure was that before you're married, you don't do any of that.
Never have sex. Sure.
I mean, that had never happened. People did it anyway. And then after you got married, that is, whatever secret things like women have, vaginas, is within the realm of their marriage. It's not talked about. It's not like something that people learn in school. And then outside of midwifery, people don't really know how the body, like men especially, didn't really understand how, or didn't have accessible knowledge to how it all worked, like labor and delivery and how the pregnancy works. Like they knew that like penis and vagina, okay, yay.
And then my wife gets like a huge belly, and then she goes into a room and there's a baby comes out.
Yes, but there was this
they don't
very
know about
kind
placenta
of
or like umbilical cord or like any of that crap.
I would say like maybe vaguely with the placenta, because that's kind of stuff you do talk about. You see on the farms and stuff, like rural people would be like, oh yeah, my cow's giving birth and that thing came out. It's a placenta. Yeah. So they know, vaguely. But when it comes to like the little details and minute things and complications and in which case I'm going to get into this female desire. They didn't have much access to it before.
I mean, they still don't really
press.
Understand that.
That's what blows my mind. This book, dude, this book from 400 years ago.
Many men still fail to comprehend.
This book is 400 years old, and it is more progressive than some men I know.
Not surprised.
I was, and I know I shouldn't be. Anyway, so there was this whole Christian society of like, this isn't proper to talk about, but of course, behind, murmurings. I mean, kids learn about stuff from other kids. They learn about, their periods and whatever.
Yeah.
But it was never something that was like talked about in school, or contraceptives were kind of more like let's pass this down, or like remedies for like abortions and stuff.
What are the contraceptives at that time? They're not using like lambskin condoms and shit. Are they at that? Yeah. They're using it that early?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize it was that old.
Oh, it's older. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say they were, they worked all the time.
They're not. Yeah, sure. They're not necessarily effective, but I didn't even think that like the idea of putting something over your penis would have come till much later in terms of being able to, because you're washing it out. Oh, now it's gross, but
yeah, real gross. You just reuse it. We don't talk about that.
Okay.
But all that kind of like venereal, as they called it, venereal knowledge is very like kept, if that makes sense. And I looked up other places in the world, because right now I'm talking about specifically the English-speaking world, because this was published in English.
Sure.
And for example, like in the Middle East, I looked up, what was it like pre-Islamic, like with sex and all that stuff. And it was, of course, way more open, way more, I mean, I wouldn't say like progressive, but like...
But you're saying it's almost like a classist thing, even, it sounds like? You're saying like the rich had access to it, but people who didn't have money didn't have access to the knowledge?
Yeah, it kind of goes back to like the printing press. Like people who could afford books were smarter because they were able to read.
Sure.
And not smarter, more informed.
More educated, yeah.
And that kind of bleeds over into this era too. But the difference is this was really cheap. This book was extremely cheap, and everybody sold it because they knew they could make money, because people wanted to see those monstrous babies and the naked ladies.
I want to see it.
I'll send you some pictures.
You can keep going. You can send me pictures later. I just was curious about what you meant by like they didn't know versus they did.
I know.
They still know how to have sex. Like that's always been like a very nebulous thing. Yeah.
But the popularity of the book was just like people. It was in everybody's house. Like everybody had a copy. And then no one would talk about it, but they all kind of knew. Like sons would like sneak it out of their moms' rooms and like go show their friends and giggle about it, and same with girls. And this book while it's full of bunk, insane science that is really hilarious that I'll get into, it got a lot of things right.
Cool.
And so before I get into like the insane stuff, the things it got right was there's a whole chapter on how women enjoy sex. And
hot take.
And that if you even want a happy wife who wants to give you children, you'd better make her happy. And it gave tips.
This is the first time hearing about this.
I know. Look, I know it's hard for you to understand. It followed me. Look,
this camera is out of control.
I can't do anything anymore. It's watching me. I'm upset. Anyway, there's a whole chapter kind of being like, hey.
Wait, so women are like, hold on, like people?
I don't know if I would go that far.
Okay, good. I didn't know if I was ready to have my worldview destroyed that much.
I know. Especially right now, it's hard to imagine that we're also people, but we are.
Interesting.
So this was 1680, all right? And there's this whole section about like, if you can't please your wife, then you suck, which was like.
I mean, respect.
Right. Well, which makes me wonder if this was written by a woman.
Oh, like it's a pseudonym. Or like yeah, I like it.
I've thought about that. Like, hey.
Yeah.
And what also they got right was that, stop following me. I'm not moving.
Again, audience who's listening and not watching, it's the camera. There's not a stalker inside of Hannah's room trying to kill her.
There is. He's
there is. It's
trapped.
the camera. Yeah.
So the whole idea of like, even now people are like, oh, virginity is like this concept of like, if your hymen's broken, you're no longer a virgin and therefore not desirable. Well, a reminder, 1680, there's also a whole part that says that's not true. The concept of virginity is not that. And which I was like, hey, nice. And went into all this stuff about like, don't get mad at your wife if it's broken. You know, she could have had an accident or fallen off a horse or climbed
playing
over
basketball
a fence,
or something.
Played basketball. One of those medieval basketball tournaments, you know, they would have.
Listen, there were some girls that were seriously dunking on the court.
They were killing it. They were like
NBA Jam style. They were doing front flips. The ball was on fire.
Oh, but the dresses didn't even get in their way.
He's on fire. She's on fire. Ugly shot. Anyway, NBA Jam. Huge part of my childhood.
I watched. Sorry, I'm getting thrown off by the camera again. I've watched people play the
shakalaka. By the way, last week the episode, in case you guys are wondering who watched on the YouTube, you looked like you're having you apparently were running like a live streaming program in the background by accident, so it looked like your face was melting on the video. And then now this week the camera's just tracking you. The
camera's like, I'm way too good at what I do.
Yeah. Anyway, so women are playing basketball, breaking hymens.
Yeah, just breaking.
They're on fire. Their turbo is all the way up.
Yeah. Yes.
Their medieval shoes turn neon green.
Neon. Stop it. Okay. That. Hey, I didn't marry a basketball player. I wanted to marry a virgin.
Yeah, exactly. Your loss.
So virginity was like, there's this whole chapter about like, hey, don't be a jerk to your wife just because she's a basketball player and broke her hymen that way. Another thing.
I deeply wish that that's what was written in the book.
You know.
And people were like, what's basketball?
It'll be invented in 200 or 300 years in a little town called Neesmith. Wait, no. That was the guy who invented it. His last name was Neesmith.
Oh, I'm surprised you knew that. I didn't know that.
Literally all I know. Okay. Another thing it got right was the concept of fertility and barrenness. Okay. And while a lot of people at the time, blamed women for not being able to have kids, this correctly stated that it is not the fault of the woman for most of it.
Yeah. Sometimes her balls are drained and they don't work.
Well, it also said like sometimes the male doesn't. It doesn't, because like obviously it takes just some observation. Like this dude's had 3 wives and no kids. Oh,
yeah,
might be him.
Bad luck choosing wives.
Yeah, they all are bad and don't pray to God or whatever. And that was kind of cool. But it did. Here's the thing: it said barrenness isn't women's fault, but it did say in some cases it is, and it listed some cases, which I'm going to get to in a minute. It also gets into like how virgins are crazy in like they can't wait to have sex kind of way.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
and so they're like, you just got to marry them quick. they're insane.
Marry them virgins quick.
Get on it. They're insane. It's clouding their little woman brains. Like I will say, it's very progressive, but there's still a lot of the like women aren't as smart as men, and why they.
Yeah.
But they even say like some women have more of a sex drive than men, and I was like, who wrote this? In America, they were like literally hanging witches.
Yeah.
At this exact time. So here's the things. Those are the things that they got right? But,
yeah.
Oh, and then they also got a bunch of like birth stuff correct, because obviously there's been thousands of years of midwives knowing this stuff.
Yeah.
And there were midwife books before, which they also stole. This person also like compiled and put in here. But what they got wrong, number one, is this thing called mother's imagination.
Moms don't have imaginations.
No.
That's true.
Turns out we have brains. I don't know.
Turns out we only think very literally. We have no capacity to be creative. Moms are only left-brained.
Left-brained, yeah. I had kids and I became
a scientist.
Very put together and a scientist and straightforward and measured.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm very measured, okay? I'm so chill. I can handle anything a camera does to me. Okay.
Mom's imagination.
Mom's imagination. So obviously babies would come out looking weird sometimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or they'd come out not looking like the parents. And so there was this like, they didn't understand genetics. And so they were like, what does that mean? How does that happen? How come this kid came out with a hair lip?
Yeah.
And it's called a hair lip because there's this whole theory that if a mother looked at a rabbit, for too long, the baby would come out with a hair lip.
Where did that come from?
Mother's imagination. This was their answer to deformities, to abnormalities, to literally anything. So this was the idea that like, if you wanted a healthy kid, the mother needed to focus on like manifest good things. For example, don't take her to an execution or you're going to have a criminal for a kid. Because if she witnesses that execution, you spoiled it. Poison.
Ruined.
Ruined that
you gotta
kid.
throw your wife in the trash and get a new one.
Just throw her in the trash with all the rest of them. And so there was this like idea that like the babies that came out deformed or whatever, it was because the mother looked at something monstrous. Yeah. So of course, like I said, progressive, but still finds ways to blame the mother constantly. So they wanted her to be like very church-like and, you know, holy and only reading and learning about good things.
Only read the Bible. There's no weird death stuff in that.
Yeah, none. There's no man asking God
slaughtering.
to use bears to kill children, making fun of him for being bald. My favorite story in the Bible.
Yeah.
Stop.
Famously rated G.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I yelled stop at the camera, not you.
Continue.
This is a professional show, all right? And I'm a professional woman. So, for example, there's this baby born in the 1500s covered in hair. Because that is a genetic like thing that happens sometimes, that they just come out hairy. And they were like, well, the mother was reading a lot about John the Baptist, who would wear these furry, hairy coats. She focused too much on that. And the baby came out hairy, and that's why. So even if you do read the Bible...
Listen, I'm not gonna go too off on a diatribe about this, but
Please.
I will say that...
I want you to.
In the internet age, with maladies and sicknesses, I have known more than one person who has watched some Instagram video or some post, read some post, or seen something on YouTube where they would effectively give you the same like equivalent explanation of why they have some sort of sickness that's like really not that far. It wouldn't be as crazy as like you read, you know, a John the Baptist book and then that gave you this, but there's something just inherent where I think it's predatory, obviously, where you feel really bad about something or you're really worried about being sick, and people will just come up with any answer. And there's a sense of desperation for it. So
and they want to keep
even
you
though
scared,
it's like,
so they keep giving you answers. Yeah,
or they know that that's a way that they can get something from you because they've given you that answer and sort of turn you into it. So it's funny to be like, haha, like the baby's hairy because of this, but I'm like, that's really still a thing.
That's well, like even when I was pregnant, like the amount of like old wives' tales that I was told as fact, even from doctors, was
interesting,
off the wall. Like eat watermelon and it'll be a girl, and like stuff like that where it's like
famous,
what?
It's called science, Hannah.
It's called. Look, I don't know what science is.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm a woman.
Yeah, I thought you knew only science. You just didn't know imagination.
Right. Sorry, I forgot the joke. Joke. Okay. Yes, 400 years might seem like a long time, but it actually really isn't if you think about it. there are still a lot of these beliefs of like, or even like the belief that, and I think that there is a little bit to this, like if you are very stressed while you're pregnant, but that it can like affect the child and give it anxiety or whatever. But like, I don't think it doesn't work that way. Like, I don't think we know what we're talking about. I think it can have something to do with it, but the way people talk about it is very like, oh, and don't do this, don't eat fish, don't eat fish, but like the set of old wives' tales that they give you when you're pregnant.
The fish is from the mercury poison.
Right, it's the mercury. Please don't eat fish.
It's all the mercury we've put into the water. It's not because fish are inherently bad, I don't think.
No. Raw fish, don't eat it while you're pregnant. But I remember someone being like, oh, you have heartburn, that means the baby has hair. It's like, what? First of all, I don't care if it has hair or not. Second of all, I've had heartburn my whole life. Like, just stuff like that, where we still subscribe to all these things that are very old midwife-y, you know?
Yeah.
Which makes sense back then. They were trying to figure it out, and they didn't have much knowledge. But they had more knowledge than they did in the Dark Ages, which this is like the beginning of the Renaissance, where they're just starting to really grasp how things work. The rules of science, the laws of science and nature. But not quite, because if they say if you don't want a hairy baby, then don't look at a hairy person. And they also say that if you are worried if you're barren, you want to test that out by making a fumigation, whatever that is, and puff it right up your vagina. And then if it comes out your mouth, you're fertile. So like I said, it's not quite where it needs to be. No, I know. Another way to test for barrenness is go to a cave. All right. No, a mine.
I'm sorry. Hold on.
Yeah, I zipped right through that.
You're doing a smoke signal into the vagina, and if it comes out your mouth, that means you're barren, or it means you're fertile?
You're fertile.
I feel like if you're fertile, then the smoke wouldn't come out because it's blocked by all the eggs inside of you, based on like crazy logic. Is this book written by some sort of Looney Tunes animators?
This book was compiled but like that's the thing, because some of it is like very. Like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That's what we teach now. And some of it's like, this must be from like 200 years ago, because I don't think we fumigate vaginas anymore, even now in the 1680s.
Listen, and that's why we have so many problems in this country.
We just need to bring back vaginal fumigation. That's my campaign. Bring back VF. Okay.
Put it on a hat.
Make vaginal fumigation American again? I don't know.
Sure. You just got to put a big tent over you for a couple of days.
Get in there.
Like
fumigate.
the circus tent. The circus tent fumigation things, you know?
For some inexplicable reason, cockroaches.
But it's a tiny one that just goes over the vagina.
Get the cockroaches out of there. Look, you can just find a new co-host soon, okay? This camera's going to make me walk into traffic, and you'll find Alyssa can come on. Okay, so I'm in control of myself.
Always.
So there's this huge part about barrenness, and while they did get some right, they're like, yeah, and don't blame the woman. They were like, okay, but if you're too hot, like your body's too hot, no way, you can't have babies.
Meaning warm, not like you're too sexy.
No, exactly. Morning warm, like internally warm. But if you're too cold, this is for the men. That'll kill the sperm too. So you have to be the perfect temperature. And your wife ideally has to be the opposite temperature of you. Because apparently...
opposites attract.
Well, that means the baby can grow? Like...
It's like the middle.
It's like the middle, like it meets in the middle. But if you have two people who run hot, then you're likely not going to have you're going to have fertility issues. Like, I was trying to parse this. I was reading this. I read this all night last night. And also, like, moisture matters. If, like, your body is moist and the other person's is dry, that's good. But if you're both moist or both dry, whatever that means, then...
Maybe this is like a metaphor for relationships, where it's like, if you both have anger issues...
It did say that.
If you're both manic people, or you're both ADHD and crazy and hyper... It's like if you're gonna have a crazy person, the other person needs to be chill.
Which I kind of
you're gonna have
subscribe to.
Right. So I'm just saying maybe that's what that was trying to say, but they just like used the wrong language. That's the only way I can interpret that.
Well, they did say that women who have a temper are more likely to be barren, which is just back to trying to control how women act and behave.
Or perhaps she's angry because she's barren. That's why she's mad.
Or she's angry because they're literally fumigating her
vagina.
Maybe she's sick of that. And another whole part of it was the barrenness is caused by rape, which the author goes into talking about rape. Sorry, trigger warning, and how it's bad, and how if you do that, then you will get nothing but like, you know, monstrous children or no children. And if a woman doesn't want it, then that's bad news for your kid.
Sorry, at this point, who is the author addressing? Men or women by saying
men?
If you do, okay, so he's saying to men.
If you rape a woman, then
if you rape a woman, yeah,
you'll get no good children from that, or any at all. Which again, it should just be like, don't rape women because it's bad. Yeah. But instead they're like, or else, you know, I don't know. But
there's a consequence.
There's a consequence for rape, and I thought that was slightly progressive.
Sure.
But they also
for
said,
the
time, for the 1680s, which, again, in America, they were killing witches.
Yeah.
And if you think about like 100 years before with Henry VIII and how he was like blaming his wives for their
chopping heads off.
This was only 100 years after that, and he was using all this science to like kill his wives. You know, like if they didn't manifest hard enough for me to have a son, or whatever. So I want to talk about the monstrous birth. So I'm gonna send you a couple of these.
Okay.
I'm gonna send you a couple of these pictures. Well, first I'm gonna send you just some of the like pictures of the Here's the front page of the book. It's
a giant. It looks like it reminds me of like the style of the Peter Stump drawings
engravings.
From however many episodes ago that was, but it looks like a gigantic woman. Does she have hair on her body?
Yes, she's a giant hairy woman.
Hairy woman who's like 10 feet tall, and then there's a dark person below her.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's supposed to be a black person or just like a person in shadow. I can't tell. Okay.
So.
Oh, it's a woman with a baby. It's not like a 10-foot tall woman with.
It looks like that because they didn't know how to draw babies.
The proportions,
they would draw them as tiny human, tiny
The head
adults.
is very small. Fun fact: pro tip, if you're going to draw a baby. They do not have tiny heads. They have gigantic heads.
With fat cheeks. One of the common beliefs at the time was that you could, there was a story of this woman who gave birth to a baby that was black, that they said it resembled an Ethiopian, which, I don't know. And everyone was like, what happened? And she was like, I looked at a picture of a black guy that was on my wall while I was conceiving. And that's what happened.
Oh, interesting.
And so that was like the science of like, you can have a baby that either is white or black, depending on, your race, or, just a color that is unusual for where you are. And while today we'd say, I think she maybe had a relationship with her lover who was black, she could easily say like, no, I just looked at a picture. And so in this book, they also talk about like, if you're having an affair, just make sure you think about your husband's face while you're while you're having sex.
That'll fix it.
And
it's the reverse. Yeah.
Exactly. Why do it?
Yeah.
Anyway, so there's some race stuff in there, but then that kind of gets like phased out over the years. Okay, so that's the front page, and then I'm going to send you photos of it. It obviously has a lot of like diagrams of.
Yeah, let me describe the picture. So it looks like it's supposed to be the womb of a woman.
Yep.
With the baby inside of it that's upside down, and then there's some, I don't know, blood vessels around it. Again, it's like a cool etching kind of style of drawing. So Section 2 of the manner of the child's lying in the womb from the conception to birth. So that's pretty accurate in terms of what the child may or may not be doing at that time.
Exactly. And so these, like I said, there's a lot of like really solid foundational knowledge in here that you wouldn't have really seen, like that kind of thing, like a diagram of inside of the womb. And the baby, that's not something that you would just know or see.
Like a cutaway kind of thing.
A cutaway, almost. Yeah. So, I mean, we take it for granted now that we know exactly what happens in there, but most people didn't. They really didn't. Especially when you're getting married at like 19 and, you have a kid.
It's weird to, like you said, take it for granted. I wonder what they thought it was.
They thought, from what I understood, they understood that the placenta nourished the baby, but they didn't quite get how it went from us to the placenta to the baby. Does that make sense?
Sure. But they could imagine that it's physically inside of the belly in the placenta.
And they can feel it. Like when you're pregnant, you can like kind of feel where the feet and like head is.
Yeah.
Where it's pushing. Like my daughter just kicked me straight in the bladder for like 6 straight months.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, it was. So you can kind of tell like, and then they come out and they'll like be in the same positions for like a few months that they were in the womb. They're like, oh, I recognize that. I can kind of feel that position still in me. Like I can remember what that feels like.
Oh, interesting.
So you can you can recognize it still. And so I think feeling it, you kind of know where they are, but I don't think people really understood like the veins and where the placenta is and how that all works. Like, I mean, imagine seeing this for the first time. I'd be like, wait, what?
What?
So there's a bunch of diagrams like that. I'm trying to find the naked lady one because, come on, gotta give everybody something.
Give them the good stuff.
And here is one that is from a couple of centuries later.
Let's see it.
This is the 1800s when they got a little more like...
Okay. This one's a little bit more, it's less of the etchy look. It's more of like just like an ink drawing. It almost looks like Eve.
Yeah.
Like out in the woods.
That's on
and
purpose.
She's naked.
A lot of stuff like that.
It looks like a lady in a bed who I assume is pregnant with her midwife. She's not pregnant. She just delivered.
Oh,
and
is that what it
is? It looks like the midwife's holding the baby, and then presumably the father, or just some random man in a suit who showed up. You don't know. She could be
doctor.
It could be the doctor. He's got his hands behind his back.
It's the 1800s, and by then doctors and physicians are starting to become gynecologists and discovering that field. And the realm
Whoa. You just sent me another.
This
sorry.
is from the monstrous birth section of it, but let me finish this really quick. Oh yeah. So, but yeah, in the 1800s, this book was still in circulation, but men had started to come into the field of midwifery. Very much sure, they had some knowledge that women didn't have because they were allowed to go to college or whatever. But a lot of that got lost when men entered the gynecological field, in that they stopped talking about all this stuff. They stopped talking about female pleasure. They stopped talking about anything about the female body, really. It was kind of like, yeah, you trust it to me, entrust your body to me, and I'll deliver this baby. And there was a lot more of like this barrier between men and women that wasn't there before, because the Victorians brought this very prudish sensibility to almost everything. And as everything got more industrialized and people moved to the cities, there was less of this rural, backcountry handed down knowledge and more like, for better or worse. And then it wasn't until the 1950s and 60s that women even got back into the childbirthing business, I guess, in a way, like
back in the business, and the business is good, brother.
I mean,
that's why I called it the baby boom.
Oh,
the boomers.
Forgot they exist. Mad at them right now. But even now, people are weird about midwives. Like I had a midwife for both my kids who was also a physician. So there's it's coming back, but with way less monstrous babies and fumigation. So the one I just sent you is one of the examples of a monstrous baby. So this book is full of these.
By the way, it literally just looks like a wood etching of the gingerbread man.
Oh, you're right.
That's all that it looks like. And then there's the second page where it's okay. So I don't mean anything by this, but the face reminds me of the Diary of Anne Frank. Like it looks like the Anne Frank picture, like with the short hair and the eyes.
Oh, she does look like Anne
that's kind
Frank.
of what that's the first thing I don't mean that in like a mean way. I'm just saying that's the first thing I think of. And then the body looks like what is it? The Da Vinci thing with like the hands out. Vitruvian? Yeah, except it's two arms, and then there's two more arms below it, and then the legs. What's interesting is like from the knee there are two sets of two sets of ankles and calves and stuff that come out from it.
And we know that today really as conjoined twins. So
is that what it's supposed to be?
Yeah, so a lot of babies that you might even know somebody who was born with like a twin attached to them in some way.
Oh, okay. You're talking about the next one. I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about the one with four.
The one with 4
that one
arms.
was also.
Yeah. So a lot of times conjoined twins are born back to back or front to front, and so this one looks like the head didn't form on the second one, and so the other twin's body was kind of part of.
Does it have breasts in the middle of it? Is that what that is?
Yeah, it does.
That's also weird.
But these are all a bunch of conjoined twins, the ones I sent you, and different ways they can be conjoined. And these are still ways that...
The first drawing just looks like it's a buddy cop movie where they're like back to back and they're like holding up their fingers like guns. Like, so weird.
They're like, no, They look, yeah, good cop, bad cop, but they're fused together by their
No,
skin.
not good. No,
no, I know.
Like two partners who are like
buddy cop, yeah,
assigned to be together. Like they look like they're posing for a photo. It's so weird. And then so then the second drawing looks a little bit more. I mean, I have not looked that much into conjoined twins, but that looks like a little bit more along the lines of what would be consistent with what a conjoined twin would look like. Because they share a lot of organs similar. And there's like parts that split off.
There's common parts where the twin splits.
Yeah.
And so this one is probably not true.
It's like a bird. It's like a person's head and torso, and then there's bird wings, and then a single giant talon. Yeah. And then a horn coming out the top of the baby's head. Thankfully, the head is proportionately a little bit larger, so it looks a little bit more like a baby.
Looks more like a baby.
So points for that. And is there an eyeball inside the talon on the mid part?
It's looking like it, yeah. There's also...
Okay. And it's got tattoos as soon as it's born as well. It's this Y and then a cross.
A cross. So this is the story from 1512. And they explained this baby, which... Again, this has gone through so many editions that over time they've added a bunch of stuff to this monster baby, like wings and a taloned foot. But in Ravenna, Italy, in 1512, the Pope was murdered. And this baby came out looking crazy, and they decided that was God's warning. That, like, this baby was chosen to be a warning to us that we better shape up and not murder our Pope. Or
totally
whatever.
Believe that. It seems completely reasonable.
And again... sounds like something someone would say today. So,
yeah.
And then I wanted to do one more where this kid has an umbilical cord coming out of his forehead. I can't find it.
Old Johnny umbilical forehead.
Oh, here we go. This is the umbilical forehead kid. This is the one that looks like the gingerbread man, but this is a more detailed version of it.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah.
This looks like a cryptid.
Yeah, it does.
So again, weird reference, but there was some very old SNL sketch of Adam Sandler being like last minute Halloween costume ideas. And it was just him taking household items and then just saying the same thing over and over again. And one of them was crazy tetherball head. He's like, look at me, I got a tetherball for a head. Isn't that crazy? That's literally what this drawing looks like. It's got a tetherball head.
It's described as it's the umbilical cord, the navel where its eyes should be, and eyes where the mouth should be, and the mouth in the chin. Again, come to learn about sex, stay to look at all the monsters.
Yeah.
Which, the reason why this book has been so popular, and by the way, there are more than 250 editions of this book.
Whoa.
So more popular than almost any...
Aristotle hasn't gotten a cent from any of it.
Not a cent. He's so mad. Well, I forgot to mention that apparently back in the day, Aristotle was like highly associated with sex.
Nice.
Which I don't really know why. But anyway, I'll, as you say, land this plane. But I got a lot of this information from Mary Fissel, this article. She's amazing. She's done a bunch of lectures and talks about this, and she goes way more into like all these records she found of people writing about how they bought this book and what they did with it. And she kind of pulls in like very of the time contemporary accounts, which make it really, really interesting. She also goes into talking about how people didn't just use it for like learning about sex and tips on childbirth and stuff, but they also used it kind of like a family Bible. Like it was passed down through years and years. You'd find some with like 5 with different women's names written in it. Grandmother to, daughter. And they would also be given as like a wedding present. And also from the groom to the bride as like a courtship present. Like, hey, here's kind of like a promise.
Gotta make some monster babies together.
Let's make a hairy freak of nature.
Put away those basketball shorts and let's get down to business.
She's like, I got a big game coming up. You know that. And there's a lot more I wanted to talk about, but we don't have time. I highly recommend going to the article I linked to, and then searching more of Mary Fissel's work. She's written books. I listened to one of her lectures. It was really good. I'll maybe link that in the Discord or something, or just tell you right now. There's this lecture series called The Physician's Gallery, and in episode 6, it's all on. It's not really a podcast, but they've made it into a podcast. It's just recorded lectures.
Yeah. And
her episode is episode 6, and it's really good. And that is, my whole tab on Aristotle's masterpiece.
Awesome. I loved it. Thank you for sharing all that stuff. It was great.
And I will say one more thing. sex ed is really important.
Agreed.
And so is contraception. And none of this is new. None of it's new. We've been doing this for forever. And there's a story, really quick, I forgot about this. There's a story of a teenager who bought this book, who stole this book from his mom. She found out, she took it away, and he instead went and spied on all the maidservants, cut holes in the doors and stuff, became a creep. That's why sex ed is important. It has to be accessible to everybody, or else people are going to find out in ways that are creepy.
Yeah.
Anyway, I hate that I have to say
assume that this happened in France.
England.
There's a place called France where they do the naked dance.
Oh, I should have known that was
coming.
coming.
There's a hole in the wall where you can see it all, and the men don't care because the women wear no underwear. Bringing it back to childhood rhymes.
And I didn't.
You still don't know how lame I am and how dorky I'll make it.
I'm very aware of how lame you are.
You just forget every time.
I forget every time. Anyway.
That was cool. Thank you for sharing that.
Yep.
I'm fascinated to go flip through this book.
Now you know about sex.
Now I know how sex works. Finally. I can't wait.
Oh, what a relief. Anyway, what
I gotta take down those pictures of Sasquatch on my wall that I look at all night long.
At the end of the day, it's not your fault. It's always
my
the
fault.
mother.
Just looking at a picture of Yeti. Okay, great. Looking at a picture of Richard Nixon on my wall.
Honey, it's not a boy or a girl. It's just Nixon.
It's a Nixon, yeah.
It's just a Nixon.
It doesn't even cry when it's born. It just goes... Nixon with an umbilical cord coming from his forehead.
His forehead.
It's a big forehead. It's probably three of them. Conjoined with another Nixon. It's double Nixon, double conjoined, double umbilical forehead cord. Oh, God, what am I even doing?
Oh, yeah, okay.
Anyway.
Okay, there it is.
Woo!
Sex ed with Hannah. I will say that was more than I learned in Utah. Okay?
Really?
Yeah. In Utah, they were like, you're going through puberty, put deodorant on, and then nothing else.
I had, as you know, I've moved a bunch at that specific age from school to school to school. So I ended up taking sex ed like 1,000 times in a row.
I mean, to be honest, I did too. I did it 4th and 5th grade, and then in Utah 6th. And I learned here.
I think I did it 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade. And then I went to biology in high school. I was like, I'm cool, dude. I know enough. Like, I don't need to have more information about this.
I know. I was crazy. The difference, though, between California and Utah is like they went into it in California. They were like, here's how everything works. And I was like, what, 10? And then I go to Utah and none of that.
They're like, sex isn't a thing.
Don't ever do it.
Never.
Ever.
Okay.
What do you got for me?
All right. Thank you for your tab. That was great. So I actually came across this story, like many of my tabs, by accident.
Oh.
Because I had started researching a different tab.
Classic.
Which led me to look up a list of invasive species.
Oh.
And in a random parenthetical, there was mention of House Resolution 23261, also known as the American Hippo Bill of 1910.
This is so Kaveh. Like I can't even tell you how like Kaveh Taherian this tab is. It's a government bill. It has an animal involved, and that's it.
Yeah, that's it. I'm predictable. So I'll say this up front: the resolution itself is actually not that interesting. It's kind of whatever.
Okay.
But the story of how it came to be is what was so weird that I thought I had to do it. And so here we are.
Oh, I'm so excited. Okay.
So back in 1884, the water hyacinth made its American debut at the Cotton States Exposition in New Orleans.
Wait, what year was this?
1884.
Okay, I thought you said 1932. I was like, really?
1932. No, 1884. I mean, not that much earlier, but...
No.
And there is a Japanese delegation, and they bring the water hyacinths as a gift. Even though water hyacinths are originally native to South America, but somehow the Japanese people got a hold of it, brought them in as gifts. And if you haven't seen it, water hyacinth, let me send you a picture real quick. You've probably seen them before.
Oh, yeah. Those are so pretty.
They're beautiful.
Yeah.
So just a little bit of background. Water hyacinth is a free-floating perennial aquatic plant that can rise up to 3 feet above water.
Oh.
And of course, the flower that it sprouts is the familiar hyacinth cluster and a bright lavender, which looks particularly beautiful against the spongy green leaves.
Yes, it does.
And at that time, most people in America had never seen anything like it. And so when the Japanese delegation brings these crazy, beautiful water hyacinths, everyone was like, "Oh, fill my jar with phosphorus and call me Edison. That flower's got moxie."
Don't forget the fumigation of the vagina.
Fumigate my vagina and call me Edison. Anyway, so they look at it and they like love it, and it's very elegant, it's very beautiful, like all hyacinths. And just like when you go to an awards show, the event organizers were like just tossing out free water hyacinths to everybody. They're like, "You get one," like Oprah,
swag
like
bag.
"You get one, yeah, you get one. Everybody gets one, yeah!" And everyone's like, "Cool, we love it."
Oh, it's just a flower, woo!
And they all take them home to wherever they were across the state and across the South. And pretty soon, the water hyacinth starts to spread all across Louisiana, eventually making its way all the way to Florida, presumably to retire because the weather was better for like its asthma or something.
Yeah, I didn't want to deal with all those liberal children or liberal young people anymore either. I wanted to go somewhere where they could have espouse its beliefs in peace.
Exactly. So
it always makes me think of The Simpsons. Like, Florida, I'm not a state. No, when Alyssa's dressed as Florida.
I'm not a state. I'm a monster. I'm Idaho with Ralph. Yeah. Yes, okay. Sure you are. So in just 20 years, it became a huge problem because unbeknownst to the Cotton States Exposition of 1884, the growth rate of water hyacinths is among the highest of any known plant in the world.
What? Are you serious? So it's like super invasive.
It's super invasive. In some environments, populations can double their size in as little as 2 weeks by sending off short runner stems that develop new plants in addition to reproducing by seeds. So they're terrors.
Like double fertilizing their seeds.
So they go apeshit, and pretty soon these lavender libertines were clogging up streams and made shipping routes that had previously moved millions of tons of freight unnavigable.
Whoa. I didn't even think about that.
Straight cock blocking everything, dude.
Just the Panama Canal?
Yeah.
Cock blocked.
I'm
still thinking about South America. Never mind.
Yeah.
This is the Gulf. This is the Gulf of Mexico. Just
Gulf of America now as
Are you relabeled. Serious?
I don't know. I don't know if it's official or anything. He tried to do it. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So they blanketed rivers and wetlands, hogging the oxygen. They killed fish.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
It's terrible. Serious. Yeah. It's a serious business. It's a big problem. It was pretty and good to look at, but also a huge pain in the ass, much like myself.
Oh, what do you and water hyacinths have in common? Huge.
Everything.
Or what does your friend say? You are difficult.
You are exhausting.
That's what you are exhausting.
Now, the water hyacinths, obviously a huge problem, but that wasn't the only problem at the time. Okay. There was also, unfathomably, by today's standards, a meat shortage.
Okay. Oh, no.
Beef prices were soaring.
Again, this is such a U tab where it's like, okay, now I'm in the flowers. Now there's some meat involved. There's some sort of shortage. There's some sort of like, I don't know. I can't even put my finger on why it's just so like your interest.
It's only going to get more me. I'm telling you, this is just the setup. Wait, it's going to go in a direction that you're like, what?
Of course. Every time I'm like, I thought this was about water hyacinths. No, it's about moon people or whatever. Okay.
So beef prices had gone out of control because of overgrazing on top of America's explosively growing cities, an unceasing wave of immigrants, and a surging demand for meat abroad. So it was just like this perfect storm of all these things happening at the same time.
I also imagine that like, because before like the Industrial Revolution, people didn't eat meat as much as we thought they did.
Exactly, yeah.
It's like now it's like way more accessible. Everyone wants it and they can afford it or whatever.
And they become used to it, and it's becoming harder and harder. And everyone's like, "Where's the beef?" They're all freaking out. They don't know where it is.
Sounds like a good catchphrase. Where's the beef?
So anyway, things are dire. Things are complicated. How do we fix all these problems?
I don't know,
man. Right? Louisiana Congressman Robert Broussard knew exactly how to fix it.
Oh.
But it required some help from two men. Specifically, what I like to refer to as a couple of Freddies.
Are they both named Freddy?
Yep.
Oh, good. Okay. All right. Sorry. It's just checking all the boxes of like, that makes sense that he's doing this.
So the first Freddy was named Frederick Frederick Russell Burnham.
Okay.
And he was a pioneer who grew up tracking all kinds of shit across the American Southwest.
Okay. Just picturing Bo Burnham dressed in 1800s.
He's Frederick Bo Burnham, yeah. He's literally the opposite of Bro Burnham, because he's not doing a whole special from inside his apartment. He's literally
out and about. Yeah. Outside. By Bro Burnham.
Burnham, exactly.
Freddie Bo Burnham. Just go. Talk over me. Please.
I keep calling him First Freddy. So First Freddy, he's much like us. He loved to not eat for long stretches of time.
Oh,
and he was always annoyed with his stomach for, quote, holding him hostage.
He said that?
Yeah, I think
I
he
have said those same words.
Yeah. He's just like, I don't care what my bullshit ass stomach wants. I'll just give it food when I feel like it.
I make the rules around here.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, my body makes the rules, but I'm in denial.
I don't care about these ducks. I don't care about this stomach.
Dude, I was listening to last week's episode, and it is just quotes. We just quoted the whole time.
Yeah.
It's quote unquote unquote.
And so because of this, he becomes really good at adapting his body to survive on whatever kind of random shit he would come across on his travels, both across America and later internationally. And he was sort of like this restless figure. He never wanted to have like a real job. And as the American West continued to be tamed towards the end of the century.
Unlike us, we have real jobs.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Stability all the way. And towards the end of the century, he started to find himself wanting kind of to escape. He tried a couple different things. He was like, oh, maybe I'll go for gold. Maybe I'll try and having this plan, whatever. It doesn't settle in for him.
Right.
He needs that expansion. He needs to be able to be out and about.
Hey, I feel that.
And at one point in his childhood, someone sort of, I don't know if they brought him a book or they brought him some articles or whatever, he starts reading about Africa.
Okay.
And at that time in particular, white people were really into the idea of like, quote, taming the dark continent is what they would say.
It's real very gross. It's real gross.
And they really believed that they were being noble by doing this. Like in their heart of hearts, they were like, no, we need to do, like, it wasn't just we need to do this for, money purposes. They really thought, some of these people, that they were like helping them. Obviously they were not, but that's besides the point for the purposes of this story. So perhaps the most noble of all were the British colonialists.
My heroes.
Great guys. Love them.
Look, I don't even know how to make a joke about that. That was rough.
Yeah. So First Freddy, he's reading about the Dark Continent and how it's all untamed, and he's like, hell yeah, dude, sign me up. It's like a bunch of stuff that is open, and it's not, I don't have a bunch of like government and stuff that I have to deal with.
I can take whatever I want.
Yeah. And after a couple false starts after he leaves, he eventually ends up getting recruited by Lord Frederick Slay Roberts as his chief scout in the Second Boer War.
Oh, the Boer War is...
So I didn't know anything about this. Yeah. I don't know. Have you read about it?
Yeah.
You learned about the Boer War? Okay. The first one or the second one, or just all of that?
All of it. Because I was like confused. It's funny because there's a Clash song that talks about the Boer War.
Oh, there is.
In high school, I was like, what's that? And
interesting.
And then early Wikipedia, I remember this is one of the things I looked up was all the things that the Clash were referencing.
Interesting.
Turns out it's all history, which now that I think about it, probably shaped me. Thanks, Joe Strummer, I guess.
Well, I guess this is where my lack of Clash knowledge led me to not have read about this until this tab.
I don't think anybody reads about this because of the Clash. I think I have a brain that rewards novelty. Yeah. In all forms.
So anyway, just real quick, apparently the British were at war with the Dutch settlers in South Africa, which, wow, guys, why don't you just all go away?
Yeah, how about you both go back to Europe? How about you? Neither of you should be here.
So anyway... First Freddy, he's really good at scouting and not eating, and everyone's like in love with him because he's charming and handsome, and he's like really good at his job. Here, let me send you a picture of him.
I want to see this guy.
I can't tell if this is later or earlier. I think this might be slightly later in his career.
Oh, whoa.
You're like, oh, young Stalin, hello.
Not really. He's got back then when they took photos of people with blue eyes, their eyes ended up looking really scary and like White Walker-y.
Yeah, it does look like a bit.
He looks like my friend Anders. What's up,
Anders Breivik?
Yeah, my pen pal, Anders Breivik. Yeah. No, my actual friend named Anders.
Okay. Hey, Anders.
I think he listens.
Hopefully. And anyway, so he's got a reputation for being really good. And he goes on all of these insane missions as a scout. One time, he hid for 2 whole days inside of an aardvark hole.
That's that's my excuse for a lot of things. Sorry, I've been hiding it on Aardvark Hall for 2 days.
Another time, he was tasked with scouting an enemy camp downstream, so he floated down a river disguised as a dead cow.
Yes,
drifting
he did.
Drifting under a fresh hide with 2 eye holes cut out of it like a literal cartoon character.
This man, what? See, that is the kind of creative out-of-the-box thinking that this world needs from people like him.
Yeah.
And maybe us. I don't know. I could easily... I don't know. You gotta do what works. You gotta do what works.
Gotta be out of the box. Gotta think out of the box. So he's doing all these crazy missions, and then towards the end of his tenure, he gets assigned to blow up some like important railway, and he manages to pull it off.
That was a huge deal because the railways were what like they used to connect all the stuff they were exploiting, and so that like crippling someone's railway is like a huge, massive pain in the neck.
I believe it's the path to the Indian Ocean is what they were trying to specifically cock block. Should have planted a bunch of water hyacinths, but that didn't really work on the land. But he did pull it off despite having crushed internal organs from an unfortunate fall during the mission.
Well, look.
And basically he's like, dude's killer. He's really good at it. And the Brits promote him to major. They're like, this guy, 10 out of 10, wood bang. We love him.
Wood bang. Really can't wait for this guy to be in Kumatab dressed in the skin of a dead cow. So I try really hard not to think about Kumatab. I know. Every once in a while it ekes in. I don't pick things based on that.
I understand. But eventually, whatever, he goes back home to the States. And when all was said and done, he had a really good, like almost like perfect record. Wow. Except for a certain white whale. Well, not exactly a white whale, but rather a self-proclaimed Black Panther. Oh,
okay. Okay.
This Black Panther was the other Freddy.
Oh, I was like, literally a panther? He got like attacked by? I was thinking
no.
Too far into the animal thing.
Frederick Lugonot Jobert Duquesne.
Oh, but the more names someone has, the less I trust them.
Exactly. Let me show you a picture of other Freddy. Here he is. Why don't you describe who he looks like, I guess, of your friends that may or may not listen to the podcast.
Hey, whatever. This guy looks insufferable. This guy looks like he would volunteer to be a police officer. He's like a skinny dude with like, he's wearing what is that? Like a magazine of like bullets?
A bandolier.
A bandolier with he looks kind of like a cowboy rancher. Yeah. But also like kind of like a bootlicker. I don't know how to describe it. He has the look of a bootlicker, and I don't like him.
Okay, sure. The lore.
I'm the worst around at describing all the pictures you sent me. I'm like, I don't like this guy.
Visceral reaction to it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the lore around other Freddy is borderline comical, and I really want to believe it because the stories are so over the top. Okay. I'm just going to call him Other Freddy, by the way. So, Other Freddy.
Off record, I was called Other Hannah in our friend group for way too long.
Okay, so this is triggering something.
No.
I'm sorry about that.
No, it's just more like, oh, yeah, I get it. I get Other Freddy. Anyway.
Other Freddy himself was a Boer who was born and raised on a farm in South Africa.
Okay.
And his dad was off doing Dutch colonial hunting stuff all the time. So he was raised by his mom and his uncle. And during the time of his youth, it was common for people in the area to eat hippos, as they were very large and fairly easy to hunt. And after they hacked off all their gigantic layers of fat, the kids would take the fat and sell it to the French soap makers for some extra scratch.
I mean, yeah.
So Other Freddy had like fond childhood memories of taking a bunch of hippo fat and selling it to French people to make
some fat from a hippo and giving it to the French for some money.
To make soap.
Look. We had to make soap somehow.
Yeah, exactly.
Couldn't use human fat.
You know, he's grown up there. He's doing all that. And eventually he gets old enough where they send him to military school back in Belgium, as was the tradition of whatever. He didn't get sent off to be in trouble. That was just like, now it's time for your training. And he's there for a little bit, but soon he gets a letter from his dad that's basically just like, yo, come home. Need to kill British. Love, Dad. Not love, but, you know, dads never said love back then.
No, they just said, son.
Son, nice to meet. It was like a handshake
nice
emoji.
To meet you,
this is
son.
what he drew.
Please come home.
Need to kill Brits. And of course, this is a reference to the aforementioned Second Boer War.
Right.
Now, unsurprisingly, the British implemented some barbaric practices to get their way during this war.
What?
Yeah,
That's an unfair assessment of the British Army.
So, funny enough, like you said, they would funnel Boers into concentration camps and ruin everything in their path. They would set fire to homes. They would shoot horses so that the Boers couldn't use them. They would burn crops and club livestock, just decimating everything.
All the while, the actual Africans are just like, what?
They're like, what is?
Why
like,
here?
Yeah, go to your own home and do this.
You're just killing each other here on our land. What?
Get out of my living room, please.
Stop killing horses.
Yeah.
On my lawn. There's no, you know what I mean? On my yard. Yeah. Anyway.
So there were as many as 160,000 Boer prisoners in the camps at one time, and 25,000 of them would die by the end of the conflict in 1902. And during the war, other Freddy was captured a few times. The first time, he managed to escape.
Oh.
But the second time, he was eventually shipped all the way to a prison in Lisbon.
Oh, whoa.
But from there, he escaped by seducing his jailer's daughter, then made his way to England, claimed to be a Boer defector, enlisted as a British soldier, hitched a ride back to the front in Africa, and then defected again back to his native guerrilla Boer army.
That's smart. That's some smart. It's using your brain.
Yeah, it's pretty metal.
Also, I'm sorry, but if I got shipped to Lisbon, I'd be like, I'm sorry, I'm starting a new life here. I'm Spanish.
No,
I'm not going back.
Him. He was like, absolutely not. He was so angry about it. So he comes back, and eventually he finds his way to his home, and literally he has like this Luke Skywalker moment where his uncle's been murdered by the Empire and everything's set on fire, and he's just like, what?
That's sad.
And, also, there's accounts of his mom getting kidnapped by the British.
Ugh.
And he goes to save her, and he ends up killing, like, not only the women, but the children, too. And he hates sand because it's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere. He goes full Skywalker. But he doesn't join...
The dark
he doesn't
side?
go become a Jedi. No, he doesn't become a Jedi
They're
or join
both
the dark side.
The dark side. That's the thing.
Yeah, right.
The Dutch and the English. They're both the dark side.
And so he's got nothing left except to hate the British even more, which kind of, like, respect.
Yeah, I mean, it can fuel you.
Yeah. So for a while, he's a runner delivering messages between different guerrilla pockets. And he's real good at it.
Imagine gorillas with pockets. But, like, not in their pants. Like, they're not wearing pants. They just have pockets in their, like, skin. Picture the gorilla just shoving his hand in his skin
flesh pocket.
Yeah. So for those who are like, what goes on in your head? That's what goes on in my head. So
far, we have a gorilla with flesh pockets and a conjoined Nixon twins with umbilical cord coming out of his forehead.
3 of them coming out of his head.
3 of them, yeah. If you're keeping track.
Okay.
And remember, this man's got resolve. He's like, he's just fueled by rage and hatred and anger.
So relatable.
And so angry, and he's real good at it. And this is where he and First Freddy crossed paths on the battlefield.
Love at first sight.
But there's never really sight. They were like passing ships in the night. They're always trying to assassinate each other, but never being able to finish the deed.
I want this as a rom-com. It's like Mr. and Mrs. Smith, but like in the battlefields of South Africa, dead horses.
I'm sure there's a fan fiction that's going to be written about this, I'm sure.
They lock eyes over the sea of dead horses that they just
start kissing just so hard, just passionate lovemaking. Kind of to your point of love, their reputations grew in the mind of one another. They're basically just like, it's this one guy, it's that one scout that just like keeps evading me. Like, they're just like nuts.
How is this going to come back to hyacinths?
I'll get there.
I just remembered about the hyacinths. Okay, I remembered about Florida. Okay, okay.
So, despite First Freddy's best efforts, Other Freddy is captured once again, but this time he's taken to Tucker's Island in Bermuda.
Okay.
Predictably, he manages to hatch yet another escape plan.
You eat all the tortoise flesh there.
He gets to the capital, Hamilton, and while everyone's probably rapping about the Constitution, he becomes a pimp.
Just you wait. No. Oh. He becomes a pimp?
He becomes a pimp
Is that
for a
what you just
prostitute.
said? Oh, wait,
Yes.
that took a minute. I was thinking about like Lin-Manuel Miranda and this guy and Gorilla Pockets.
That's happening in the background. He's singing all the Hamilton songs.
And this guy's just like, shut up.
Shut up. I'm trying to pimp this prostitute named
woman.
Vera. Yeah.
Vera.
So this woman named Vera, and Vera turns into his informant, gathering
Vera.
intel about ships coming in and out of the port. And a week later, the sailor that's set to go to Baltimore shows up to Vera for an over-the-pants HJ. And
she's just mashing it.
Mashing.
What does Frank say in that episode with Gail the Snail? Like, you're just mashing it.
So the sailor wants an over-the-pants HJ. They manage to get him drunk. He takes off all of his clothes. And yet again, like a Chuck Jones cartoon, Freddy steals the sailor's outfit and takes his place on the boat and eventually lands in the good old US of A in 1902.
Okay. All right. I don't care if any of this is true or not. It's perfect.
It's
and
funny.
it's going to make a great rom-com.
Exactly.
They lock eyes over the prostitutes that he's pimping.
While in slow motion, while Lin-Manuel Miranda raps over it. That's like their love song.
Cringingly. It's their love song. The one about his
we
mom
get the
dying
job
and
done.
puking. And that's their love song. Someone needs to shut me up. And it'll be me.
No, it's fine. Yeah.
Shut up, Hannah. Okay, continue.
So he comes to America, and other Freddy reinvents himself using his life experiences to become a well-respected expert on hunting big game in Africa. Because remember, in the States, a lot of people haven't done this.
Yeah.
Lucky for him, the president, who loved hunting more than anything else in the world, was about to finish his term. Exactly.
Oh.
And Teddy Roosevelt was planning his big post-presidential honeymoon trip, and he wanted to go on this huge hunting trip throughout Africa. And he wanted to learn everything he could about big game. And because of his prestige and because of the reputation he had made, other Freddy's name comes up. And soon he went to the White House to talk with Teddy one-on-one for a couple of hours.
Okay, let me get this straight. This dude, this Dutch kid who was raised in South Africa.
Correct.
Fought in the wars, got shipped off to Spain as a prisoner, escaped, went to England, joined the British Army, went back to South Africa, went back to the Boer Army.
Yep.
At some point, he got captured again. Yep. Met his true love on the battlefield. Got captured again, went to Bermuda.
Yep.
Became a pimp. No, escaped, became a pimp.
Yep.
Then went to the United States, and now he's hanging out with the president.
Exactly right.
You've introduced me to a lot of crazy, wild people. I think this one might take the cake for
This is pretty wild. So him and Roosevelt talk for a while, and apparently Freddy was like, "Oh, he's the real deal. He's like, Roosevelt knows what he's doing. Like, he's a good hunter. He's like a real dude. He wasn't just like, oh, the president, whatever. He was like, no, it's cool." Obviously, because he was very famous for being a big time hunter. And anyway, so
and a preservationist, weirdly.
Big time. Him and John.
I love the land, but I'm gonna kill what's on it.
Yeah. Eventually, Teddy leaves on his trip, and the papers are obsessed with following it at the time.
Oh yeah.
And other Freddy becomes the equivalent of a cable news talking head. So he starts writing articles and weighing in as the expert about the former president's adventures in Africa.
Wow.
So he's just like, oh, he's probably going. So they would write an article Teddy showed up in, I don't know, Kenya, or I'm not sure what the track was that he went all the way. But he's like, if the president's in Kenya, he's probably coming across, I don't know, wildebeest or something. And
I see.
This is what the wildebeest are like, blah, blah, blah. Sort of whatever, the way that, YouTube videos would function now in terms of it, or bad mid podcasts.
Would never listen to one of those.
He sort of understands how this all works. And at one point he's like, okay, I bet you if I get a little bit salty in the press about what the president's doing, I'll probably get a little bit more attention. And so he starts doing that, and he starts writing these articles that are a little bit critical about what the path was that Roosevelt's doing, because he knows it's going to sell more papers. And eventually he leverages that into a speaking tour, being like, this is the real African hunting tour. I'm from South Africa. I'm not the president who's all soft and staging it for the media. I'm the real deal. I know all about it. So at long last, this brings him to the attention of Louisiana Congressman Robert Broussard.
Okay.
Broussard, like all politicians, was looking for any reason to stay in power.
At whatever cost.
Doesn't matter. So he comes up with this insane idea. what if we bring hippos to Louisiana to eat all of the water hyacinths?
Okay, sure.
The logic goes, effectively, he's like, listen, hippos, they're fat as shit and they'll gobble them up all quick like. And guess what? Once those fat asses eat everything, we could just kill them and eat them.
Oh, that's a fail-safe plan.
Perfect.
I figured it out. The thing you always end up like, oh, I know it's about you. I know it's one of your tabs is when it's animals where they shouldn't be. A lot of times,
I hadn't even thought of that.
Animals being where they shouldn't be is a
interesting
whale. Whales in a golf course, or
I guess you could automatically argue that that's rooted in being a child of immigrants.
You said it.
Feeling totally displaced. Yeah, it's like that's what I always relate to. It's just like I wasn't supposed to be born here.
I'm not supposed to be here.
Yeah, I deeply relate to these hippos being like, oh wow, that's pretty crazy. I had never thought of that. That's really interesting.
It's a very common theme in your episodes.
Well, thank you for telling me that. It's cool.
Yeah.
Apparently, the papers were referring to it as lake cow bacon.
Wait, what? Okay, lake cow bacon.
Yep.
So bacon's not from cows anyway. It's from pigs.
Doesn't matter.
Okay,
they're just, I guess, I don't know. Hippos look like pigs more than they look like cows, even though they call them water cows. I don't know. None of it made sense. It was all a terrible idea. For many reasons. One is water hyacinths are mostly water, and so they would just eat. They wouldn't get any nutrition from it, and they would still want to go out in the. Hippos will just go out of the water and like graze on actual grass and stuff. Like that's
so they're another invasive species that they're bringing.
It's the whole thing. Anyway, perfect plan. But how did Broussard come up with this plan about hippos? Right?
I know where this is going. I think.
Turns out. No, I don't know if you do. It turns out he read an article titled Transplanting African Animals that was published in New York's Independent magazine in January 1910.
Okay.
Guess who wrote that article?
Who?
First Freddy.
Yep. That's what I was thinking. Somehow First Freddy, this was his idea.
So, First Freddy had gotten home from the war, and of course, he's bored as shit because he hates civilization, and all he's doing is thinking about like, oh, it was so cool when I was scouting in Africa and like war and shit, and like
I can't even wear the carcass of a cow anywhere.
Yeah,
here.
Exactly. He's doing it, and his like wife's mad at him, and his kids are like, she's like, you're scaring the children, and he's just like, I can't.
I'm a hippo at heart.
Yeah. So he hates it, and he's just like, I need to do something with all this knowledge I have. So he draws from his experiences, and he writes all these papers, and he does this like little PR tour. So Broussard had read that, and then separately he hears about other Freddy's Roosevelt Don't Know Shit 1910 World Tour, and he's just like, bro, kismet. What are the odds that I got two well-respected army dudes who know about Africa and hippos and shit in the public eye?
And they're both
I'm going to have them both come to Congress and make the case to the House Committee on Agriculture.
Okay. Such a good rom-com.
Right? So it was on March 24th, 1910. Under discussion was H.R. 23261, a bill to appropriate $250,000 for the importation of useful new animals to the United States. The Hippo Bill would become to be known. So now, much like this mid podcast, two arch rivals are forced to work together for the greater good of the people, which they informally dubbed the New Food Supply Society.
That's just... Dude, you could just do whatever you wanted. You could do whatever you wanted back then.
And in an unlikely turn of events, First Freddy sees a path for redemption for his nemesis. Okay. He's like, you know what, man? This is America. He's a true believer in America.
Starting over here.
He's all about it. He's like, you know what? Anything can happen.
Yeah.
We're bringing hippos out to Louisiana. Why can't somebody reinvent themselves? Like, who knows? And he, as much as he wanted to kill him the entire time, he respected him. He was like, the guy is incredible at his craft. He's an amazing soldier. He's really good at it. He's basically like game recognizes game kind of thing. So
it's
he's
just
like
hunting, which they love anyway. Just
they both love. So he's like, maybe we can bring his whatchamacallit, his skills for good.
The rom-com is going to be called Dangerous Games.
Ooh, dangerous games.
The most dangerous games. Anyway.
The most dangerous games. I thought it would be called Lake Cow Bacon, but that's another title for the sequel.
That's the sequel.
Basically, he's like, this is America. Second acts, you can do whatever you want. Nazis can help us build nukes. It's totally fine. The past doesn't matter.
Make
USA.
your new rules. Make them.
And the funny part is, by all accounts, both of these dudes really believe in the mission in their own way. And they throw in like full on effort into like making this happen. And, but you know who like didn't really give a shit?
Who?
The politician, of course.
He's just one of those hippos.
Yeah. And Broussard was just becoming busy with higher profile projects, like trying to bring the upcoming World's Fair to New Orleans. And he's off like shaking hands and kissing babies. And he's like, yeah, cool. You guys keep doing all that hippo research and shit. Whatever. We're going to get it done. Vote Broussard. And
kissing
he's just
babies
doing whatever.
With the umbilical cord out of their forehead.
Yeah, exactly. He's kissing the double-headed.
The end of the umbilical cord.
Sucking on it. Gross. Like spaghetti. Sorry, that was too much.
No, it wasn't. Are you kidding? I love an umbilical cord. Okay, please continue.
And basically, he's just like, he's stringing them along the entire time. And he's just like, oh no, we got this other expert, and like, oh, I'm looking for money on this, and I'm trying. And these guys, both of the Freddies are like, dude, like we're trying to do this. We're trying to figure out the research. Like, other Freddy is writing all these papers. First Freddy is like trying to speak to all these people to try and find other money. They're like, again, these are people who are like, they're not politicians. They're like, if we have a job, we're gonna do the job because that's what we're hired to do.
Right.
We're not here to bullshit people and jerk each other around and like basically delay everything the way that a normal politician would.
Right.
But eventually both Freddys were just annoyed as shit, particularly other Freddy, because all these randos in the press start claiming to be like hippo experts and stealing all of his ideas.
Piss me off.
This is Boer Freddy, by the way.
Yeah. Other Freddy.
Yeah. And so they're just they're doing the equivalent of like, oh, they're taking his videos and posting themselves, like laughing at it and posting, being like, it's a new video. They're like, no, dude, shut up. Make your own video.
Content. Sorry, I didn't mean to say content.
It's okay. I forgive you.
Thank you.
I
know we're rivals and it's hard to forgive your
exactly.
rival,
You and I, we'll meet on the battlefield in South Africa and shit our pants because we ate something that was weird.
We ate hippo and now we
Actually,
can't.
No. You shit your pants. I'm constipated for 2 weeks. That's how it works.
It depends for me.
Yeah. So it drags out, of course, like everything, for a long time. And in short, it just basically never passes and peters out because for a lot of reasons, mostly because of lack of leadership from Broussard. But then World War I breaks out and the two Freddys start to stray on different paths again.
Oh.
And not before something truly bizarre happens to other Freddy, which is Roosevelt had planned a second African hunting trip. And other Freddy was like, cool, it's time to go like to Africa, Too Furious or whatever, like the sequel to whatever. And he raises a bunch of money to produce Captain Fritz Duquesne's South American expedition.
Ooh, okay, so he's going.
It would be, it would be part movie, part lecture. And he'd travel through the jungle with his wife, Alice, filming the same sorts of things that Roosevelt would encounter, then narrate his footage live on stage.
That's actually awesome.
Yeah. And he gets it all together and he's able to get some funding. Because remember, he's not getting any money for any of the stuff that he was doing for the Hippo bill. So he's like, I got to come up with something else.
There's no money in hippos.
There's no money in hippos. I got to make videos. So he basically gets this all together and he's at the port of New York getting ready to leave is when America enters the war. And at this point, like, he's like radicalized. He's so pissed about getting jerked around by Broussard and capitalism in general. And most importantly, that the Americans were on the side of the British, that he just leaves.
Oh, he just ditches.
He's like, remember, he hates the British more than anything. So he literally just like goes to Germany and he's like, I don't care what we're doing as long as I get to kill the British. That's all I care about.
What? No. Okay. All right. Okay. Sometimes hatred can make you join the wrong side. I don't know. And
then his life goes in like this crazy direction, which is not part of this tab. And I really can't do a two-parter. But I was fascinated by how off the rails it goes. And it's like a really, I don't know. I was tempted to do it. I don't know. I might still
maybe come back to it.
Maybe I'll come back to it. I don't know. But basically, the hippo bill never ends up becoming anything.
Oh.
But in answer to the main question of the tab, which is what are you supposed to do with water hyacinth? I know that now they use pesticides. And there's water hyacinth weevils, which are like these little beetles that they use to prune them.
Oh.
And it's still like a super disaster. Like those things are very invasive. They're huge. They're like weeds. People hate them. They're not fun. Yeah.
So they never brought hippos over.
They never ended up bringing hippos over
to
put into the wild for a litiny of million different reasons.
A nightmare. Did you imagine wild hippos?
Yes,
They're so scary.
Okay, I was going to say hippos are terrifying.
They kill a lot of people.
They kill the most amount of people in the entire continent of Africa, if I'm not mistaken.
Every year.
Every year. They're also, the thing that people don't realize is that they're so fast on land.
What?
Because their center of gravity is really low. Oh. So even though they look like, it's like pigs. Pigs are fast when they run like boars in the wild. They're really fast. And hippos are no different, except they're like 30 times the size of like a regular pig. And effectively, like if you're in between, or if a hippo perceives you to be in between them and the water source, they'll just bite you in half. And like their gait is like massive. They're massive. They're huge. Hippos are so scary, dude. They're crazy. I don't
like that. That's scary. Yeah. I'm glad they're not here.
Yeah. Anyway, so the article that I pulled all the research from, actually, I mean, I pulled a bunch of them, but the main one was from Atavist. Have you ever heard of Atavist?
No.
It was by John Muallim was the last name. It's called American Hippopotamus. It's a fantastic read, actually, I have to say. Out of a lot of the stuff that I've read, it was very well researched. It's almost like a novel. It's very long. There's way more details in it. Obviously, I'll include the link in the show notes that you can go read. But I thought it was a good read. It was a really good read.
I just want... what happened to British Freddy?
British Freddy. Oh, you mean American? I think he at one point, funny enough, Roosevelt starts this, he has this like volunteer battalion that he wants to take off to the war because he's not president and he's not officially part of the army. And then Wilson comes in and he's just like, I don't care. I hate So he basically gets this group of volunteers to bring First Freddy into it because First Freddy had like served in all these places. And also don't forget, First Freddy had volunteered in the British army, but he was always like, he always not resented, but he always felt like a hole in his heart because he had never served in the American army. So when World War I breaks out, he's just
wanted to get
he
involved.
Really wanted to do it. It was like a really big deal for him.
He was like a patriot.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a whole bunch of stuff of like other ventures that he went into, but
these
basically,
men are fascinating.
Yeah, right. So I think he was ironically again part of Roosevelt's little volunteer crew, and then when Wilson comes in, he's just like, yeah, we're not doing that. I don't care. And Roosevelt got really mad about it, and I think that's when he was like, I'm gonna overthrow Wilson or whatever, and then I think he like dies like before he's able to run again. So that's a whole other thing.
I want to go look up that little World War I battalion from Roosevelt. I've never heard about that.
Yeah,
he had his own
it's all in
thing.
There.
Okay.
Yeah,
crazy.
It's in the article. Anyway, so that's the Hippo bill.
What a ride.
Really weird, right? It went to places where I was like, I did not expect it to go to where it went.
No, I didn't expect there to be this crazy respected rival, like rivals, but they respect each other. I don't know. I still think they should fall in love.
I think they kissed, for sure.
For sure.
At some point.
Over a meal of hippo.
Can you imagine how much sexual tension there was between the two of them?
I can.
Yeah. Unreal.
They're both equally talented at what they do, trying to kill each other. Unbelievable.
Respect. Yeah. Anyway.
That was dope. Thank you.
That's my tab.
Thank you so much. I liked that.
Sure.
It was very Kaveh in every way.
Being immigrant animals, as we like to say. As we learned now through our psychological unpacking of my work. Anyway, so now we move on to closing tabs.
Yeah. I have so many that are open. But I did what you do, is I put them all into one.
Yeah, one window, so you just close it.
One window, yeah.
A bunch of different tabs.
That must.
I don't know. What do we do? A hippo sound would be fun, kind of.
Oh yeah.
A hippo sound crushing a boat with people in it.
Oh yeah. A woman screaming in childbirth. Just kidding.
Either one.
No, I don't want to do that.
Okay.
Let's do a hippo. Have you ever heard of hippo? They're scary sounding.
Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to travel overseas. I've been to Kenya. I've seen hippos in real life.
Been to Kenya? I didn't know that.
It's scary as shit.
Dude, you bring every once in a while, you're just like, oh, I've been to blank, and I'm like, what? There's because I've only known you for a few years. There's a whole You?
It was not while we were friends.
No, I know. There's just like, oh
that.
yeah, he's like been all over. You didn't just pop into existence when I met you at Comic-Con.
I did. I'm your imaginary friend. Anyway, let's close these tabs.
Okay, ready? You count
us down. Oh, okay, I'll do it. 3, 2, 1.
Oh yeah, that was nice. That was fun to close all of them.
That was a good hippo sound. Okay, moving on to listener emails. You're up first.
Yeah. Okay, so this one is from Sven from Switzerland. It says, Dear Kaveh and Hannah, Happy New Year from Zurich, Switzerland. I wanted to share a tab on one of my favorite, most bizarre sites in Switzerland. In Bern, by the way, is not our capital, as Switzerland does not officially have a capital city, which I didn't know. We have this fountain called, oh, I forgot to look up the pronunciation, called the, I'm so sorry, Sven, Schindler's Fresserbrunne. It literally translates to the small children eater fountain. Swiss German does this great thing where we make everything smaller than it needs to be, adding an li at the end of the word. So he doesn't just eat children, he eats small children.
I was going to say, is it that he eats small children or that he himself is small and then eats large children that are larger than him?
Located in the middle of the old town, many tourists probably overlook this unique fountain, and most Swiss people probably live in denial of it. There appear to be multiple theories for what it exactly is and why, from it symbolizing Kronos, Krampus, or most horrifyingly, a Jewish person. Of course. Dude, all those old stories, it's like, oh, and we're back.
Yeah.
Regardless of the potential anti-Semitism and general weirdness of it, it is a sight to see. And if you ever find yourself in Switzerland, make sure you check it out. And this is just like this, like, well, it looks like a
picture of it.
Yeah, I'm going to send you the picture of it. Well, you'll see. He's literally eating a child.
Oh, dear Lord. That is scary. It's like, what's his name? Goya's, what is it called? Where he's
Saturn
eating Saturn, right, yeah. It looks like that as a statue, but he looks like he's dressed like a jester almost.
Yeah, he looks like a dork. He's got a bag full of children waiting to...
He's got takeout, yeah. He's got like, he went to the drive-thru of children, and then he's got like a couple of extra McDonald's fries that are at the bottom of the bag. But there's a couple extra children. Yeah.
Extra children. Oh.
He's like, oh, cool. They give me a long one. Yes.
Okay. So yeah, he's literally eating the head off of a child. I mean, it's not like visceral like you'd think, but anyway.
It's pretty cool.
Keep it Josie, Sven.
Thanks, Sven. All right. Email number 2 is from Adrian from Maryland. Hi, Hannah and Kaveh. My tab is a scientific paper that we have discussed at my work multiple times about wild pandas rolling in horse shit. In this study, researchers found that wild pandas were seeking out fresh horse manure to roll in during the winter.
I mean, yeah.
They described the horse manure rolling, HMR. Yes, they gave it an acronym. They described the horse manure rolling behavior as a sequence of steps. Step number 1, sniffing. Step number 2, rubbing their cheek against it. Step number 3, rolling in it.
Oh.
And number 4, smearing it over their whole body, which, by the way, you could say that those 4 steps are going to be the same thing that happened to the 2 Freddys in our rom-com that we're going to make.
The fan fiction that I'm going to write, that I've already started writing in my head. The camera's following me around again. I'm going to go insane.
Smear me and Freddy! Ah!
Freddy! Let me roll in it. Sick.
There are also videos attached in the paper if you want to watch.
Okay. Shh, me. Just.
The researchers also found pandas did this only in cold weather and only with fresh horse shit. Why?
Well, duh, it's warm, right?
The responsible compound is BCP/BCPO, which is found in fresh horse manure. They found pandas will also roll in hay that they treated with this compound in the same conditions. It was found that this compound inhibits receptors in the body called TRPM8 receptors that sense cold. So, pandas roll in horse shit to inhibit their cold response and stay warm during the winter. Loving the podcast. It keeps me, parentheses, insane, during long drives between class and work. Adrian. Also in the Discord. Thank you, Adrian. That's
Thanks,
fantastic.
Adrian. I just love how it's
no
not just
notes.
because it's warm. It's just there's an actual scientific reason.
Yep. Listen,
Wow.
Pandas do it for... Pandas are like scientists. They're not like, what was it called? Wife imagination?
Mother's
imagination?
Mother's imagination,
Yeah.
wife imagination.
Once pandas finally have a child after like 30,000 attempts, then their imagination goes away and they're like, time to roll in some horse shit right now.
Particularly find some horse. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to submit some listener mail, you can email us at
500opentabs@gmail.com. That's 500. Give us a brief explanation of your tab. Let us know where you're from and include the link, of course. And we also love to hear voice memos if you want to submit one of those so we can hear your voice. It sounds fun. The audience likes that too.
Yes, it's fun. And we do have a show coming up, Emerald City Comic Con, 6th through the 9th of March.
First weekend. We're going to be up in
weekend
Seattle.
of March, Seattle, and I have a book signing that was just scheduled.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, for the 10th, the next day, the Monday after. At Third Place Books, and I don't have the address, but it's somewhere in Seattle. And don't
as
know
if
the time.
anyone's going to be like, oh, I'm going to look up the address. No, or anyone's going to be like, oh, hold on, let me play the podcast back so I can write down the address.
Third Place Books. You can look it up. Look it
up.
It's
It's 2025.
There might be 2 locations. That's the only thing.
Oh, interesting.
Anyway,
okay.
But we also have a panel.
We also have a panel. We did the Escaping the Algorithm panel back in San Diego last year. We're taking it on the road. We're going to be in Seattle for it. I believe it's Friday at 6:45.
Yep. I think it's Friday.
Friday evening. We have yet to release all the details about it, but it will cover the similar topics as we did before. It was about how to build community outside of the algorithm.
Which we need now more than ever.
More than ever. Yeah. So if you're going to be at Emerald City Comic Con and you like going to panels and you like us, come to the panel. If you don't like us, come to the panel. If you don't like Emerald City Comic Con, get tickets anyway and come to our panel.
Just come.
Yeah. I don't care what you like. Just come to the panel.
As long as you come. And so say hi at the booth. I don't care what you do or like.
Yeah. Furthermore, if you want to stay updated about that and everything else, we're 500 Open Tabs on Instagram and also on Blue Sky. I am 500. I am not 500. I am at PermaFriends on Instagram and of course Taherian on Blue Sky.
And I'm at Hannah Hillam on everything. And we also have a Discord.
That's right. Sign up for the Discord. Subscribe to
Patreon.
YouTube. Follow the show links. Follow the subscriber links,
please follow them.
I believe that's it.
That's it. Oh, and thanks to Alyssa, of course, as always.
As always, thank you to Alyssa for everything that you do for us. And I feel like we should come up with a new... this Nixon thing's not going to go away. It's only going to get worse.
Secundus Nixon?
Secundus Nixon is now... Is that the name of the second Nixon?
It's attached to the baby.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So there's Nixon and Secundus Nixon.
Stop following me, camera. Oh my... Okay, so Secundus Nixon is his twin that is attached to him by the head. Right?
Yeah.
In the 1600s. He's been alive forever. And there's umbilical cords. So, yeah, how about Secundus Nixon?
Keep it Secundus Nixon. I just love Secundus Nixon, the name that I'm just going to keep saying.
It just means second Nixon.
But now the lore has a purpose.
The lore is, this is
it's correct.
We've created the lore. Keep it Nixon?
Keep it Secundus Nixon.
Keep it Secundus Nixon.
And Josie.
And have a good whatever.
Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.